Hey everyone, welcome. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. It is Friday, January 31st. We are live right here in the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios, like most nights from 6 to 7. We're on the radio at 98.7 Walk by Faith and 1420 AM. We're going to be all over social media. Let me just double check this because we've had a few episodes this week to make sure that our social media takes off. So let me just make sure we are on social media because I want it to be there for you. Yep, looks like we're there and we are ready to go. So, hey, first thing I want to do before we do anything else is I want to apologize for last night's show. It was awful. I mean, they're not all that great to start off with, right? And sometimes it's hard to stick around and listen to me for the whole hour. But last night was horrible. I didn't get much sleep the night before, and I don't know, I was tired and I couldn't keep my thoughts all together. I found myself rambling about all kinds of stuff, and I felt horrible when it was over. As soon as it was over, I just deleted it off of our Facebook page and got rid of it on X and YouTube. And I think it's actually maybe still there, but I'll get it off of YouTube tonight. But I got good sleep last night. I'm fired up. Got my workout in today, and I'm ready to go. So I'm hoping, and I'm pretty sure you're not gonna play bad twice. You know what I mean? Like you might have one bad game, but you always got a chance to come back the next night, and that's life. Sometimes life doesn't go like you want. Sometimes life is not as fabulous as you wish it was. And last night was one of those shows. So speaking of my workout, I was going to wait a minute, but I'll just get to it right now. Hey, here's what we did. Yeah, I'll just put all my notes. I'll put my notes up. Now, let me see how I could do this here. I'll just tell you. So workout today was 12 hang cleans. So standing up, let the bar come down to your thigh, and then it's a standing hang clean. You can look it up. 12 hang cleans, 12 push press, and then 12 thrusters where you have a full squat, and then 12, 10, 8. 12 hang cleans, 10 push press, 8 thrusters, and then we rode the bike for a minute. Took about 2 minutes and 20 seconds to 2 minutes and 30 seconds to do a round. Then we rested for a minute and a half, and then we did 5 rounds. So it was taxing, to say the least. Cool thing about CrossFit is you can do it at 80 years old or you can do it at 25 years old. It doesn't make any difference. You can get a good workout in both of those. So that's what it was. It was a good workout. It was very tiring. Heart rate got up there 145 ish, around that, 148, and did that for 20 minutes, and it was great. So if you guys are interested, we do the Rock Fitness. We do it right here. If you want some help with your fitness, let me know. 806-794-0400. You can send me a message on social media. I'd love to help you out. If you want to talk about fitness, you can go back and find some of the fitness shows that we've done. Look at that. It's the CrossFit. We did some of that earlier, just a couple weeks ago, really. Talked about some of the foundational principles of movement. So we did that. And if you guys are interested, it'll be great. It's good stuff. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. Okay. I want to address something that's going on in our community right now. And I want to just talk about it with some open eyes and a little bit different take than you might be getting through everybody else that looks at it. And it has to do with a case of measles that was discovered here in Lubbock. And then today there was a case of avian flu. So we got bird flu. Some animal that died was detected to have bird flu. And so what happens is everybody gets super emotional all of a sudden because it challenges us, right? Whenever we hear something like that, it challenges our belief system. And if your belief system has no depth, it doesn't take but a couple of those. I mean, just one challenge like that, and you will just crumble to nothing. You will go into complete fear and hysterics over what's going on. It'll scare you to death. And you get a case of the measles, and all of a sudden we got measles in Lubbock, and what will happen is this, and this is what has happened. Our health department, I guess, has some sort of responsibility to tell the public that there's been measles in Lubbock. Okay, I appreciate them for doing that. Okay, and then they just kind of leave you hanging right there, and the only thing that they tell you is that you need to be vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, you're the devil and you should go to hell and burn and fry forever. That's basically what it comes down to, right? Well, that's not really fair. And it's not all that, I don't think, all that intelligent. Now, I'm not, you guys know that it's not my scope of practice to be able to tell you whether or not you should get a vaccine or not get a vaccine. And I really don't care whether or not you get a vaccine or you don't get a vaccine. And I really don't think you should care whether or not I get one or I don't. That's my stance on it. But I have been studying this subject now for 24 years. It is not the first time I've ever looked at it. It's not the first time that I've worked on it. I've been studying it for 24 years. Now, am I a virologist? No, I'm not. Am I an epidemiologist? No, I'm not. Am I any sort of biochemist or any vaccinologist or any of that? No, I'm not any of that stuff. I'm a chiropractor. I'm a wellness chiropractor. Okay? And take that or leave it. I don't really care either way. But I could tell you that I've looked into it and I've been studying it for a long time. And I've kind of developed my own outlook on this type of deal. So it's like, okay, now we got this issue of measles in Lubbock. And then you get it posted on the local news station Facebook pages, and then you get all the comments, and then you get all these crazy comments from this bipolar situation because leadership is absent. That's my take on it. Leadership is absent. You're either over here and you're pro-vaccine, or you're way over here and you're anti-vaccine, and that's the only conversation. It's like we have a child in Lubbock that has measles, and the conversation is whether or not you should vaccinate your child or not vaccinate your child. And that has nothing to do with health. And what's sickening to me is when a health department, if it's called a health department, and they make an announcement that there's some measles in town, why wouldn't they follow the announcement with some things that a person could do to handle it if they got measles? Why wouldn't they give a person some option to do healthy things? And it's not that hard to do. It's not that complicated to do. It's just absent. If the same thing happened when we went through COVID. We went through COVID, and what did the health department do? They just said, lock yourself down and stay 10 feet away from everybody. And whoops, not 10, 6. Say 6 feet away from, and wear a mask and do all that. It's like, okay, how did any of that have anything to do with health? We went to the grocery store and all the health food was covered up with plastic and all the Cokes were available. And we opened up 3 or 4 or 5 Brahms in Lubbock, and everybody was stuck out in the street eating sugar. And you know what I mean? Like, I didn't hear any of our leadership talk about, okay, I've got some children and I need to make sure that those children are safe. And what can I do to make sure my children are safe, whether they're vaccinated or not vaccinated, from what's going on? And the thing about it is that if you decide to start, I mean, even though there are some options, if you decide to start taking care of your health when the crisis hits, you are already kind of behind the 8 ball there. And that's what a lot of people want to do. They discount all these conversations we have about glucose and fructose and corn syrup and processed foods and all that sort of thing. They just ignore it. They just feed their kids Pop-Tarts and Dr. Peppers and all this crap. And then all of a sudden, when something shows up, now it scares them to death because they've preloaded all that. These immune systems are crazy. And one of the things I'll show you tonight is a ultra processed. We got a new article on ultra processed foods. It's really cool. And then we got some fun articles too. I do want to get to that. All right. That's disappointing in our health department that they don't ever talk about health. They say, hey, we have a case of measles and take your vaccine. We had COVID, take your vaccine. We have avian flu. Are you kidding me? Are we not? Is it not going to have another vaccine here? But then, if they don't even have, if they already have one, they'll have one shortly, right? So it's like, okay, that's what you're going to get from a health department, a government-run health department. Not throwing stones at those people. I'm not throwing stones at them. I'm just saying they ought to call it something else. They ought to call it the information department instead of the health department, because where do you turn when you need something for health? Who is guiding the health in our community? And I can tell you, if the outcome of your health is to go get vaccinated, you're not getting guided properly, in my opinion. That's my own opinion. Okay, and I've got some depth to it to make the argument. I didn't just think of it last night when I saw that we have measles in Lubbock. It's not like, oh, all of a sudden I'm an advocate for health. No, it's what we've been doing around here for a long time, and you guys know that, right? So let's talk about some concepts and some ideas about what we could do with health. So what I did, it's pretty easy. It's just one of the things you could just start to kind of ask yourself some questions. What is measles? Where does it come from? What's happened with it? I mean, it's like, just get a background quickly on measles, and then you can just you can look at things, and you can look at cases. And so I went to the CDC website, and I just wanted to know what are the cases and what are the outbreaks and all this sort of thing. And I'll show you a picture of this. This is what's on there, and this is how it goes. And we went through this in chiropractic school, but let me show you. Let me show you this. All right, this is right off the CDC website, okay? And it's this particular graph that we're looking at right here is reported measles cases in the United States from 1962 to 2023. Now, it's super interesting because there's a graph. There's a graph that starts up here at the close to 500,000. I don't know exactly the number but it's close to 500,000 in 1960. Okay, but they don't tell you anything about 1900 to 1960. They just tell you this area where the vaccine was licensed in 1963. And then all of a sudden you see this downturn that's going on. And then you see how many, it's just like this, the graph goes like this. The graph just dives and goes down. But when we study this in the past, what I've seen in that graph is if you'll back up and you'll back that graph up past 1960, that thing's on its way down anyway. You just picked a point in time and you looked at it and you said, oh, it's coming on down. But if you'll go back to 1900, it's coming on down. And so that's kind of what we get, right? We get these graphs like that and all this information about outbreaks and all this stuff. And so I just started doing some research, and I wanted to know, is there anything that before 1960 that I can find out about this? So I went over here to this next one. And age-specific measles mortality. This comes from Cambridge University Press. Okay, so age-specific measles mortality during the late 19th, early 20th century. So it's like, okay, what do they have to say? I mean, is it okay if I just look at something that might be a little bit different. Um, yeah, measles mortality fell prior to the introduction of vaccines or antibiotics. That's the opening line of the summary right there. By examining historical mortality reports, we sought to determine how much measles mortality was due to epidemiological factors such as isolation from major population centers or increased age at the time of infection. Age-specific records were available from these places in Scotland and New Zealand and Australia at the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th centuries. Despite the relative isolation of Australia, measles mortality was concentrated in a very young children in Aberdeen. And it goes on to talk about it, about the different kinds of stuff. And then it goes through the whole thing, goes through the results, and then it goes through the discussion at the end. And so I just read through the discussion. It says you can kind of go through there, and you can start to look at some of the things. Societies with rapid circulation of respiratory pathogens soon have very few adults developing measles as children become solidly immune from their first and only measles virus infection. Okay, so when you get it when you're young, you very seldom have any problems with it when you're old. However, even those few adults being infected with measles progressively develop less serious illnesses once they encounter the virus. And it goes through and it talks about there. Therefore, isolation alone was not a major mortality risk factor. The increased exposure could have decreased secondary bacterial pneumonias. Other possible contributory factors in the fall of measles mortality could lower viral infection doses occurring. High measles mortality occurs in malnourished children. Okay, that's a clue for us right there. High measles mortality occurs in malnourished children in developing countries, indicating the important role of nutritional status in enabling children to survive severe viral infection. That's wellness. That's health there. Now, that's something that we can count on. We can say, look, I don't need my child to be malnourished. I need to make sure my child is getting proper nutrition. Therefore, whenever they have to deal with measles, they'll handle it one way or the other. They'll do it because they need to have proper nutrition. Malnutrition likely influences measles mortality through limitations in cellular immune response. That's what we talk about, right? Sugar and malnutrition are the same thing. It's sugar is malnutrition, and we've got this immune response, and sugar decreases our immune response. Low vitamin D decreases our immune response. And in this particular article, it says vitamin A is a particular nutritional component which is important in measles resistance as determined by a variety of vitamin A supplementation studies. Could a change in nutritional status explain historically observed drop in measles mortality? That's a question they ask. Although childhood nutritional improvements may have contributed to the gradual decline of measles mortality seen just prior to vaccination introduction in the mid-19th century, it's difficult to understand how poor nutrition or its rapid improvement following soon after introduction of measles virus would have accounted for the extreme mortality of first contact island epidemics and its rapid diminution. So basically, it just says, look, the main thing is we don't need to be malnourished, and the second main thing is that vitamin A helps. So I just went down here to the references. I just went down here to the bottom of and I started looking through the references, and there are 32 references that are involved here. So I went all the way down to the bottom to see how many references there were, and then I just worked my way back up to see what they said. Well, number 30 right here is a randomized controlled trial of vitamin A in children with severe measles. And this came from the New England Journal of Medicine. So I just went to the New England Journal of Medicine. I just clicked on the link on Google Scholar. I went to the New England Journal of Medicine, and I just looked to see what was this study about. What did it say? This is published July 19th, 1990, New England Journal of Medicine. So, volume 323, number 3. Background. Measles kills about 2 million children annually, and there's no specific therapy for the disease. It has been suggested that vitamin A might or may be a benefit in the treatment of measles. We conducted a randomized, double-blind trial involving 189 children who were hospitalized at a regional center in South Africa because of measles complicated by pneumonia, diarrhea, or croup. The children, median age of 10 months, were assigned to receive either vitamin A, 400,000 IUs, or a placebo, beginning within 5 days of the onset of the rash. At a baseline, the characteristics of the two groups were similar. Here's the results, okay? Although clinically apparent vitamin A deficiency is rare in this population, the children's serum retinol levels were markedly depressed. And 92% of them had low serum retinol. Serum concentrations of retinol-binding proteins and albumin were also low. As compared with the placebo group, the children who received vitamin A recovered more rapidly from pneumonia and diarrhea, had less croup, and spent fewer days in the hospital. Of the 12 children who died, 10 were among those given the placebo. That's horrible, but that's what happened. For the group treated with vitamin A, the risk of death or a major complication during the hospital stay was half of that of the control group. Conclusions from the New England Journal of Medicine. Treatment with vitamin A reduces morbidity and mortality in measles, and all children with severe measles should be given vitamin A supplements, whether or not they are thought to have nutritional deficiency. That's their conclusion. It's like, look, we got something right here that can help you out. And it's like, all right, well, okay, where do I go from there? Well, let's go find out where you get vitamin A from. Like, what are sources of vitamin A? I don't even know what that is. What's vitamin A, right? So that might be what you're asking yourself. Vitamin A helps protect your vision and is critical for your immune system. And this comes from the Cleveland Clinic, right? Health Essentials of Cleveland Clinic. These are our guys over at the Cleveland Clinic. We use these guys a lot on this show. We just go to their website because they put out a bunch of good stuff, right? So we go over there and it says, were you ever told as a kid to eat your carrots because they would help you feel better? Well, that's not completely off. Carrots contain vitamin A, a nutrient that can help protect your vision, among other things. Your body doesn't naturally produce vitamin A, but you can find it in many foods. It's also available as a nutritional supplement. But unless you're diagnosed with a vitamin A deficiency, you don't necessarily need that. Because so many foods contain vitamin A, it's easy to get through your meals, says dietitian Elise Homan. But you also have to know how much vitamin A is and how much is enough and balancing all that stuff. Okay, so there's two types of vitamin A. There's carotenoids that are found in plant-based foods such as carrots and sweet potatoes, fortified foods with vitamins added, and supplements. And then retinoids found in animal-based foods such as eggs, milk, fish, and liver. So what does vitamin A do for your body? Number one, it helps your vision. Number two, it aids in immune function. Vitamin A strengthens your immune system by supporting white blood cells and the mucous membranes in your lungs, intestines, and urinary tract. This helps you ward off infection and toxins. Giving vitamin A supplements to children with measles has been shown to reduce the severity of the disease, according to the World Health Organization. In other words, vitamin A can sometimes save your life. I didn't hear any of that last night on anything. I didn't read it when I read the releases from the health department. I didn't hear it on the conversations. I didn't hear the news people talk about it. I didn't hear anybody talk about it. Hey, if you're worried about it with your kids, make sure they're eating their carrots, right? Make sure they're eating their sweet potatoes. That would be a simple, healthy thing. What we do is it's like, okay, now it's just vaccines. That's the only thing I heard. You get your vaccine, stops measles. I'm like, or eat your carrots and kick measles' butt. Like, that would be a different option. Maybe I have an immune system that has power. Maybe I have an innate intelligence that has power. And if I do, maybe that power has the ability to handle some of these things that I might face in my everyday life. If you want to get vaccinated, go ahead, but let's talk about that too. And I don't want to start it right before the break, but I will here. I mean, when we get back, I'll finish it, and then we'll get into some fun stuff. But let's keep going. Vitamin A reduces your cancer risk. It keeps your skin clear. It supports reproductive health. It keeps bones and teeth strong. What are the best sources of vitamin A? It says dairy products is an excellent source of vitamin A from milk, yogurt, cheese, butter. Yeah, you kind of got to watch it, but that's what it says right there. Eggs. Eggs are a nutritious part of any meal. So, one hard-boiled egg contains 75 micrograms or 8% of the recommended daily allowance of vitamin A. Fish. Oily fish are among the best sources of vitamin A. Try salmon, mackerel, bluefin tuna. It doesn't take much. 3 ounces of serving of cooked sockeye salmon provides 7% of your daily recommended amount. Liver and liver products, fruits and vegetables. Oil, seeds, and nuts provide a dose of vitamin A along with most deep yellow, orange, or dark green leafy vegetables and fruits. You see, that's what we talked about last night, maybe a little bit, and before. When you do healthy things and you follow that eat well, move well, think well concept, and you make sure that you're getting the nutrition that you need, you cover up so many problems that you don't even know that you're covering up. You just automatically cover up a lot of these problems because you're doing healthy things. Your exercise, your sleep, your proper nutrition, you stay away from improper nutrition, and just by default, you just cover up you're like, oh man, I didn't even know it that all this fish oil that I was taking or all this eating this fish or eating these green leafy vegetables was actually helping me have high levels of vitamin A, which would help me if I ever was to run into measles. Right? Yeah. Stick around with us. We got to take a break. We'll be right back right after these messages. And I want to talk just a little bit more about this, and then we're going to get to something really fun. I promise. Yeah. So I think, and what I'll let those people handle the way that they want to handle their things, and then the people in Lubbock who want health concepts, maybe they should look to health places instead of sick care places for their concepts. The people that want to look for sick care can go to sick care places. That's fair enough. But the general population doesn't even have any idea. It's like there's a lot of things I could do to make things better for myself and my kids, and I could maybe help their immune system function better. I could make sure that they have their vitamin D like they're supposed to have. They could make sure they're not eating a bunch of sugar or overloading their body with fructose, which is creating all this fat and inflammation, and then all that's releasing cytokines that's causing respiratory problems and lung issues and all this stuff, right? We know that. I know you guys know that. You guys that have watched this show and you watch it for very long, you get it. The thing about what is different is that there's an assumption, and maybe I should wait. I should wait just a minute. Hey, Lewis, I'm glad you're watching. Thanks for the message. Everybody's great. Hope you have a great weekend too. Hope all you guys that watch this show have a great weekend. There's an assumption. Now, I almost started it twice. I got this in my head right here. So, give me one more second. We'll get to the assumption. I'll tell you. I'll give you the sneak peek. The assumption is that the vaccine's just free of any negative effects. It's like if you get into that just a little bit, and you start studying that just a little bit, you'll start to understand that. Whoa, hang on just a second. Which is worse? Which is worse? The vaccine or the measles? It's like, well, maybe there's a debate on that. Okay, everybody, this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, and we are back. And we spent that first segment just talking about health if you're trying to avoid measles, right? One of the things is vitamin A. Eat your carrots, eat your sweet potatoes, get your fish, take care of get your green leafy vegetables. How much do I need? That's the next segment. And just so you know, we'll just finish up right here with this, and then we'll move along a little bit. How much do I need? 6 to 11 months, 500 micrograms, MCGs. Okay, 12 to 23 months, 300 MCGs. 2 to 18 years, for females, 300 to 700 MCGs. Over 18, females, 1,600 to 1,800 MCG. And then for males, 1,400 to 2,200. Over 18 is 2,000 to 2,400. Over 14 years and pregnant, 750 to 770. 14 years and lactating, 1,200 to 1,300 micrograms. So that's just what might happen if you get too much vitamin A. It might build up, and then some blurred vision, some bone pain, some dizziness, some dry skin, hair loss, headaches, nausea, vomiting, skin rash. So that's kind of hard because those things show up in a lot of other problems too. So it would be you'd have to be pretty sharp if you're going to just figure out that your hair loss or your dry skin or your dizziness was actually caused, or your headaches was caused from a vitamin A overdose. But I just wanted to set that up to you right there, right? So that's just one thing that you could do. Keep your immune system strong and go in that direction. But then, and what I was saying to the guys on the social media was this: there's an assumption that, well, both of those, there's an assumption that taking a vaccine has no repercussions whatsoever, like that there's nothing to it. And so I studied this for a long time because I wanted to know, and because I had to make a choice about whether or not I was going to vaccinate my kids or not. And so I did not, by the way, and that's my choice. And in the state of Texas, that's my choice. I have the option to do that. The government gives me the option to do that, and I chose that option, and I've been studying it for 24 years since because it's a big deal, right? So that's the choice that I made, but it's been important to me to pay attention to that choice and see what was going on with that choice. So I came across in 2020 a lady named Judy Mikovits, and one thing that you're seeing right now with RFK Jr. in all of his confirmation hearings is this: when you challenge the big dogs, you're going to get massive pushback, right? They're going to come at you because and they're not just going to come at you at a low level. They're going to come at you at a high level, and with lots of power. And that's what he's facing. He's facing a lot of that going through his hearings, because he's challenging some of these big pharma and big food and all this sort of thing. He's challenging some of those people. Congress, he's challenging them too. And he's big enough to take it. I'm not worried about him. He's got enough moxie about himself that he's big enough to take it. And he's backed up by our president, who's got enough moxie to take it too. So they'll handle it and they'll get through all that stuff. But what I'm saying is, it happens at all levels when you take on the establishment. Well, Judy did that. Judy took on the establishment. She is a microbiologist or whatever she is. She's like for real. And what she was studying is she was studying. First, she studied AIDS. She was right in the middle of all that stuff back when AIDS came out, and that it was a virus. And she was studying some stuff, and she ended up in chronic fatigue syndrome. And she ended up doing some work in chronic fatigue syndrome. And she found she found this correlation in her work of this thing called an XMRV. And an XMRV is a retrovirus from a mouse. And what she found, this XMRV was like a high correlation of people that had chronic fatigue syndrome had an XMRV. And she's like, how do you get a retrovirus from a mouse? How do you do that? And so what she did is she explained that, and she explained it to me and the rest of the world. But as far as I was concerned, she was explaining it to me. And it was like, how do we get a live attenuated virus? And if you want to know what the ingredients are of these vaccines, I've got them. I got them. Dr. Murphy supplied all this stuff to us. I got them right here in my notebook. But there's the ingredients list of vaccines, and here's the MMR, and there's the things that are in it. And you can go through there and read all that stuff that's in there if you're interested in any of that stuff. But, if you get down to this WI38 human diploid lung fibroblast, that comes from a 14-week aborted child. And so does this MRC5 cells. So those are human cells, by the way. Some of you might get fussy about that, and you might not like the idea that it came from an aborted child, but it's in there, right? So how do you get the attenuated? They're going to take a live virus in this vaccine, and they're going to run it through an animal tissue to weaken it. They have to attenuate the virus. This is what Judy taught me. This is coming from my study with her. So they're going to attenuate the virus, meaning they're going to weaken the virus. They're going to take a live virus. They're going to put the live virus into an animal cell, a live animal. They're going to run it back through again, and then they're going to pick the virus back up. And then they're going to do it again. And then they're going to do it again, and then they're going to do it again, and then they're about 100 times. And after they do it about 100 times, then they've made that virus weak enough that they can inject it into your body. But the problem is when they inject that into your body, they got to have something to go along with it to stimulate your immune system to attack that virus, because the virus is so weak, it'll just go right through and not even know. So they have to add something to it, and that's where your thimerosal and your aluminum now and all that sort of thing is your mercury and that was in those things. That's the reason it was used. It was used to stimulate the immune system to attack and then see the virus, and then hopefully we'd create some immune response to the virus. Fair enough. It's like, okay, right? But where did the XMRV come from? The XMRV had that. What is that? It's a murine retrovirus. That means that somewhere in that pathway, they picked it up. When they ran that through, when you did that live attenuated virus and you run it through that animal tissue and you bring it back around, sometime in that 100 times cycle, what happens is they picked up a virus from the mouse, but they didn't know they were picking up because it was dormant in the mouse. So they picked it up and ran it back through, and now it's in the vaccine. And so where you inject it, and you inject it into the person, and the person gets an immune response to measles. But then they catch chronic fatigue syndrome, or they have an increased amount of asthma, or they have an increased amount of peanut allergies, or they've got some sort of prostate cancer, or there's some other issue down the road that's not free. It's just not free. RFK Jr. is pointed out multiple times. The autism just keeps going up and up and up, right? Now I'm not debating that tonight. I'm not even meaning to get this deep into the whole thing. I'm just simply saying that you just jump over here to the vaccine as if it's harmless, okay? But maybe it's not, and maybe it's like, okay, now if I have to make a choice between how do I handle this virus versus how do I handle this unknown of what might be going on in this vaccine, and which one of those choices do I want to make? And me personally, I'm so glad Judy showed up in my life, and it's like, because she showed me, it's like, wait a minute. I got told there was something that might be fishy about this thing, but now I kind of have some idea, okay? And you say, well, Judy's a quack, because if you go look on the internet and you go search for her and you go read the stories, what are you going to get? You're going to get the narrative of the pushback, massive negative things to try to discount her work. And I'm telling you, I've listened to her enough times that she's solid. She's solid. And that's the problem, right? Is because it's pushing back on some things. So another person came in. Another person came in and added to the work. All right. Now this comes straight off the National Institutes of Health because there's a doctor, Shishing Lo, SHYHCHINGLO. Okay. So this is viruses found in chronic fatigue syndrome patients. New research supports the idea that viruses may play a role in chronic fatigue syndrome, a debilitating disease that affects millions of people nationwide. And it goes through, talks about all the problems that goes along with chronic fatigue. No definitive cause of chronic fatigue syndrome has yet been identified. Last October, a team of scientists identified a murine leukemia virus-related virus called XMRV in blood samples from patients with chronic fatigue syndrome. So, and then it goes down and says, Dr. Shishing Lo of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration decided to test frozen samples of blood taken from well-documented chronic fatigue syndrome patients around 20 years ago. At the time, his team had been looking for, but was unable to find, agents associated with chronic fatigue syndrome. Lowe's team collaborated on the study with Dr. Harvey Alter at National Institutes of Health Clinical Centers. Harvey Alter is a lifelong doctor, and he was the one that's credited with the hepatitis C virus. He discovered the hepatitis C virus. So these guys are big-time people, right? Their work was funded in part by NIH, National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Disease, and the D. Young Foundation. Who ran NIAID for 30-something years? Dr. Fauci, right? Using techniques called PCR, the researchers searched for DNA sequences from MLV-related viruses in both patients and healthy donors. A positive finding were confirmed by a more careful sequencing analysis. As reported in the early online edition of the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences on August 23, 2010, the scientists found MLV-like virus gene sequences in 32 of 37, 86.5% of the chronic fatigue syndrome patients, compared with only 3 out of 44, 6.8 of the healthy donors, people who did not have the virus. 3 out of 44 of them, people who did not have chronic fatigue syndrome, had XMRV. In contrast to the study that first linked XMRV to CFS, the researchers found a more genetically diverse group of this virus. Well, it's a genetically diverse group because it changes. The team next tested a sample taken nearly 15 years later from 8 of the patients who had tested positive. They found that 7 of them tested positive again. However, the virus had changed within the patient over time. Such changes aren't surprising for this kind of quickly evolving virus, the researchers say. The question that Judy asked is, where did 34 out of 36 people, 32 out of 37 that had chronic fatigue syndrome, and 3 out of 44 of the healthy donors get a mouse retrovirus? Now, retroviruses are part of our DNA. It's part of the deal. But what they found it goes back, if you want some reference to this, there's a movie called The Band Played On that you can go back and watch. The Band Plays On, something like that. And the point of it is just this. There may be some things that are related to some of those vaccines that we get that may cause detrimental health effects down the road. They may cause them immediately, or they may cause them later. And in her book called Plague, she writes about some of this stuff. And here's just a little excerpt from the book. This is page 690 on my little, I don't even know what chapter this is. It says, the next day, Hillary Johnson and Kent Heckenlively met for breakfast. Heckenlively thought it hilarious that the same Discover magazine that had vaccine phobia as its #1 science story of the previous year would send such a sympathetic journalist to the Autism One conference who would seek him out. Johnson told Heckenlively that some people with ME/CFS also traced the onset of their symptoms to a vaccination, just as Andrea Whittemore had traced her relapse to the MMR shot required before she could start at the University of Nevada, Reno. Heckenlively wondered how he could talk so candidly about these issues with a world-famous scientist like Mikovits and a top-notch journalist like Johnson, while the press seemed to take an almost ghoulish delight in painting the parents as the fanatics and the scientists as the voice of reason. While Mikovits understood why Heckenlively might be worried about her future, there were a few things he didn't know that made her believe things would soon move in a more positive direction. Something that could be cited as evidence of possible contamination in the XMRV study was the lack of sequence diversity between known isolates and the virus. And then it goes on. But that's just an example, and you can look her up if you want to know about where is it? Right there. Andrea Whittemore. If you want to look up Andrea Whittemore, that's where Judy ended up going to work for the Whittemore Foundation, and that guy ended up going to jail. He was a big donor of Harry Reid, who was in Congress, and there's a bunch of stuff that goes on because that gets a bunch of people all fired up. Okay, but the point is this: we're dealing with a case of measles, and whether we're dealing with avian flu or a case of measles or anything else, if you're going to approach it from a health and wellness standpoint, do health and wellness things. And all those people who just go complete bonkers when it goes bipolar, and they just start saying, they just spout out at the mouth about things, and they get so emotional about it. You got to tamper that a little bit, and that's where it would help if you could turn to the leaders and for help. And when this subject, you got to just find the leaders, because they're just going to make hysteria. That's the same thing they did during COVID. They made hysteria go on. We didn't change anything. I had to wipe down pens, and I had to change my schedule book and all that sort of thing. But we did the same thing during COVID that we do now, and it's not going to change my attitude if bird flu shows up, because it's like, look, I'm doing well things. Okay, so anyway, that's all. I need to stop. That's all I want to say about that. Because I got this really cool. I'm just going to stop right there. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Send me a text, 806-794-0400, or send me a message either way. All right, let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about something really, really awesome. So we got an article. We got an article from Dr. Murphy, and this is a good one right here. So you're going to like this one. And it's going to be fun, and we got almost 7.5 minutes left. All right, here we go. The effects of chiropractic care combined with 3-month physical training program on the development of adolescent basketball players. This comes from the European Journal of Sports Science, September 2024, Volume 3, Number 4, pages 18 through 24. And there's a ZHANG and a bunch of guys. This study cites 25 references. The study assessed the effects of routine chiropractic care combined with a 3-month strength and conditioning program on the physical performance of adolescent basketball players. The control group did not have any chiropractic care. They only did the 3-month strength and conditioning program. The major objective of the study was to use a 3-month strength and conditioning program to train adolescent basketball athletes, combined with a routine chiropractic cervical manipulation, and test the performance in agility, muscular strength, muscular endurance, and speed. 31 male athletes aged 17 through 19 from the elite basketball training camp were divided into a chiropractic group and a control group. In the chiropractic group, all subjects received cervical manipulation 1 time per week done by a team chiropractor. All subjects received chiropractic cervical adjustment C1 through C7 by utilizing a diversified adjustment technique. The program aimed to enhance agility, muscular strength, endurance, and speed. The frequency of training was 3 days per week through the 12-week period. So, what did they do? They assessed multiple things. Assessments were taken at baseline, 6 weeks, and 12 weeks. And they did a 3/4 court sprint. They did a box agility test. They did a 1-rep bench press. They did a 1-rep back squat. They did supine bench press for max reps on 143 pounds. They did the 17-line shuttle run. And they say here, no prior research has specifically studied the combined effects of chiropractic manipulation and strength conditioning. So here, they took these kids, they all got to do strength and the strength and agility test training, but only half of them got to get adjusted while they were doing it. They got to get adjusted once a week while they were going through the program. And what did they find? Right? Some key points. Chiropractic care is gaining popularity, especially among young athletes. Recent research suggests that regular chiropractic adjustments can assist with the improving joint mobility, enhance athletic performance, and reduce the risk of injuries by ensuring proper alignment of the spine and musculoskeletal system. That's a quote right there, right? Now, what do we know, right? They missed that neurology. What difference does it make? What difference does it make to ensure proper alignment of the spine and musculoskeletal system? Afferent information to the brain, efferent information back to the body. Neurology. Get your brain going, right? With the prevalence of chiropractic care, it is important to investigate its combination with strength conditioning programs. Recent research has shown physiological benefits derived from chiropractic treatments that surpass placebo effects. Chiropractic care can reduce muscle inhibition. That's brain stuff right there too. Okay, here's the findings, and you're going to be so surprised at the findings, right? It's like the chiropractic group showed significant improvement in all metrics except box agility tests, while the control group exhibited fewer substantial changes. Why would I bring any other kind of article to you guys on a show like this, right? that would be go against the narrative that I'm talking about, right? But it's nice to have some guys doing this, right? Because we know that, I know that, and you know that. And hang on one sec. But okay, here's a conclusion. Results indicated that structured strength and conditioning programs combined with chiropractic adjustment significantly enhance adolescent athlete physical performance. That should be for every kid in America should be getting adjusted. Should be getting adjusted while they're working out. It's vitally important. If you want to know that, look at all the athletes that get adjusted when they're grown. Go Google Usain Bolt and chiropractic. He got adjusted on the track at the Olympics, right? The study concludes that consistent chiropractic care and professionally supervised training are beneficial for adolescent athletes' development, suggesting the integration of such programs into training routines for adolescent athletes would improve their physical capabilities and minimize their injuries. A specific professional conducted strength and conditioning program combined with chiropractic care can significantly improve the physical performance of adolescent athletes. Fantastic. That's some good stuff. Our study results indicate that athletes who were professionally trained for 3 months combined with chiropractic care could have a significant improvement in their general strength, muscular endurance, speed, and agility compared with a control group that only showed minor improvements in each category. The 3-month strength training program combined with chiropractic care could greatly benefit athletes. Yeah. Chiropractic manipulation was helped stimulate the neuromusculoskeletal system. There we go. The neuromuscular system is what they said. These findings align with other chiropractic literature, which emphasizes the improvement of neurological integrity as a key factor in the beneficial effects of chiropractic manipulation. Weekly chiropractic care addresses subluxation issues related to sports activities and may potentially enhance the effectiveness of training programs and possibly reduce the risk of injury. Yep, it helps your brain function better. It helps your brain to muscle coordination work more efficiently. It gives your body the better chance to not get injured. It increases your output. And it's not just for athletes. It's for all people that your nervous system is your master system. And if you take care of it and you treat it right, you can improve your health. That's all I got for you tonight, y'all. You guys have a great weekend. Thanks for listening. Not trying to be controversial and all that stuff, just trying to tell you about health. So if you're interested in it, maybe it'll help you and your family. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. And we'll be back Monday night to take health to church. You guys have a great weekend.